Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Not Another Interview Show podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Green, and today I have a really great show for you guys. I just got off Skype with Mr. Jason Gerbay, the director of the 2017 fan film The Mask, based off of the Dark Horse comics by the same name, and a little bit of the Jim Carrey movie too. But before we get to that, I want to give a quick thank you to my friend Ian Margolitz from the band The Velvet Ants for letting me use their song Anyone for our intro and outro music. It's from his 2012 album Advantage, which you can check out on Spotify, Apple Music, any preferred streaming service you can think of, basically. So I'll leave a link in the description for his music and show him some love. Speaking of showing the love, thanks for checking the podcast out, and if you can, please like and subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family, and if you guys know anybody who would be interested in having an interview on the show, then let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys. Feedback is definitely key for this podcast. So without further ado, here's my interview with Jason Gerbay. All right, hello everybody. I am here with none other than Mr. Jason Gerbay. Jason, how are you?
Oh, really good. How are you?
I am wonderful. I am excited and nervous at the same time, but mostly excited.
I am the same boat here.
Let's start this off correctly. How did you get your start in filmmaking?
Let's see. I think, I was going to school for web development and realized I hated it in my last semester. So, I was like, well, I think I'm going to see what else there is. So, my graduation had actually gotten recalled, and my advisor was like, well, just take 3 credits online and you're all set. We'll get you your degree. And I was like, well, I've got all these grants and stuff. If I were to take 6 courses, would they be covered? Yeah, but why would you want to do that? So that's when I took cinema, acting, history of film, sociology, communications, a bunch of stuff that was completely unrelated to what I was doing. And,
oh God, I know that, yeah.
It's like, gosh darn it, I'm going to come out of college here doing something I like to do, or at least learn of something that could be enjoyable for a career. And, I got to acting class and then quickly just started making movies with everybody in it, pretty much. And we still keep in touch like 12 years later, so it's kind of funny. So
yeah, which that in itself is like really amazing. So Did you always have a passion for filmmaking and acting and stuff like that, or?
Not so much the acting. I think I try it here and there, but it's really, the film, I think I've always had a passion for storytelling and just the different forms of it, not a specific form. Like, it doesn't always have to be film, but there's different ways and better ways sometimes to, put a story out there. So it may or may not be film, but whichever way a story can best be put and get a vision across is, what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I'm, my passions have always been, one or the other. Growing up, I was always into film and stuff, and, it's still kind of there a bit, but at the same time, I also have, an extreme passion for music, which I told you about, obviously, so yeah, totally, man. So maybe, one or the other someday.
Well, I get to hear some banjo and drums by the end of this interview.
I actually am taking at the moment I'm taking a sound design class, which is, stuff like Foley art, and I was just recording stuff for that, and it's God, it's so amazing. I would totally love to get involved with that if I could.
Nice. That's very cool.
Yeah, totally.
Foley is just a blast.
Yeah. So we're here to talk about your movie, The Mask, your 2017 movie, which is based on the comics. Is that correct?
Yeah, to some degree. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little bit of the comics in the movie. So where did your love for The Mask come from?
I guess, I don't know. I think when I first picked up, I think it was a movie adaptation, ironically enough. I picked that up when before the movie came out with Jim Carrey, 25 years ago. And I looked at the comic book, this is just a fascinating concept. He's got this piece of wood, but look what it can turn him into.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, just kind of a fascination with that concept kind of grew from there. And then, I don't know, yeah. And then later years, I I've dabbled in enlightenment and different things and spirituality, and just kind of was like, boy, this is just such a beautiful metaphor for the psyche, and I saw such a psychological opportunity. And I think that's what I've always seen in The Mask, was just how it, connects to the egoical entity in a person, the ego, and just brings that out to such a degree. And then I really don't think it's ever a good thing, honestly. The ego is never good. So everybody's got that in us. That makes up our human brokenness. And so I was just like, oh, this is just such a great metaphor for everything that's wrong with a person and our human element. And so that's I kind of fell in love with that metaphor. And so, and this movie really hit that hard.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally see where that came from, because, like, I got into it through the movie when I was like a little kid, and like I always had like this fondness for The Mask that never really went away. Like, I've always loved it in some capacity, and
he's got such a nice green head.
The silly man has a great big head. But yeah,
it's massive.
But yes. As I got older, I started reading the comics, and I became so fascinated with the concept, like you stated, because it's more than just like some guy puts on the mask and he acts silly for 2 hours. No, like, it's actually there's actually a deep metaphor to it, like combined with like cartoony slapstick and stuff, which is like hook, line, and sinker for me. I love that shit. So
absolutely. And I think I love what Jim Carrey did with it. I mean, like you say, being silly for 2 hours, it was great. And I think they kind of touched on that psychological component a little bit, but it was just such an opportunity. So Jim Carrey really typecasted that character, since he did such a great job. No one could ever picture anybody else doing it, which kind of killed it.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I don't like about The Mask, is I feel like you said, people have typecasted it to the point where they can only associate Jim Carrey with the role, which I don't think is fair, because I feel like it's been stated in the comics, like, from day one, that it should go from wearer to wearer, and like it explores different people and like how they work and stuff like that,
Absolutely. And I think the original comics really pass it on. I mean, that's how all their series worked, was the end of one comic, it got set up for the next guy, and we didn't linger on characters like we ended up doing. But and it was meant to be that way, and it never really got it would have been such a cool movie universe, I think, had
it really would have. I mean, they did touch upon that in Son of the Mask, and we all know how that turned out, so.
It was one of the best films I had ever seen, personally. I'm
just
kidding.
To be fair, you don't understand the cinematic masterpiece that is Son of the Mask.
I think it's, I don't know, like, me and a friend had watched it about 5 years ago when we were really drunk, and it was just such a joy. Like, I was like, I can't believe they could make this. It was so all over the place. It was so abstract, and just it was such a strange concept for a movie, let alone a sequel, and just to have absolutely nothing to do with the original as much as it did was a feat in itself. So
I mean,
I can find
we still had Ben Stein to tie it together.
Oh, yeah.
We still had like the original mask prop. Like, they actually
gave
they gave 5% of a shit about continuity in that movie, but like the rest was just like, I feel like they could have done more with the concept. Like, it should have actually focused on the mask itself, like behind the lore of it, instead of like, ooh, there's a baby that has powers of the mask. Doo-doo-doo.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, I had heard just recently from, I can't even say who it was, but he explained to me why Son of the Mask was Son of the Mask, because he had worked on Son of the Mask, and he said, CBS wanted to get the cartoon going again, so they really saw a franchise opportunity, like, let's really market hard to kids and families, and then, we own all the rights to the stuff, so CBS put a big stake of their money into the movie, which I never knew that. And apparently, I guess this is true, given someone who's worked on it. And I was like, oh, I get it now, but I always will have respect for that art, because, okay, this is a movie that got made. A lot of people put time into it. And it brought the mask back for a movie that probably wouldn't have happened otherwise, but it also may have killed the franchise for this period of time too. But
yeah, so in a lot of ways, it's sort of like a double-edged sword. Like, there's good to it, but there's also a lot of bad. So
yeah, I mean, it was cool just to see the relic back in a movie, I think, when it came out. And so, yeah, I mean, if you turn your brain off, it's a great stoner flick, honestly.
It really is, but like at the same time, as a standalone film and as a sequel to The Mask, it really does not hold up by any means. And I don't mean to trash anybody who's worked on Son of the Mask or has any involvement with it. Cough, cough, Dylan Sides, cough, cough, who's really good friend of ours.
Mm-hmm.
But, I just feel like The Mask has more potential, and Son of the Mask just really squandered it,
Yeah, I think so. I think if they had just looked at the script a little bit before granting, what was it, $100 million to it. I don't know, just think about it for a second, but,
Yeah, totally. Like, even when I was a kid, seeing it in the theaters when I was, like, 8 years old, like, I ate it up, but at the same time, like, I feel like it was missing something. Like, there could have been more to the movie,
Right. So you saw the original 1994 when you were -3 years old then. And then
well,
you come back to
I saw, well, here's the thing. I did grow up on the movie, like, when I was, like, actually, like, 3 years old.
Okay.
And, like, so I had to wait a couple years for, like, a new Mask movie. And then, like, the teaser trailer comes out, and I'm like, oh my god, yes! And I've seen that teaser trailer recently, and, like, I can tell you, like, it hypes up something that's gonna sound so badass, and then it cuts to that baby, and you're like, oh god, this is gonna.
They did a great job with the first. I think I know which trailer you're talking about. I think I enjoyed the first 3/4 of that trailer. Yeah, until we're like, what?
Yeah, like it's cool, like, like you're actually showing the potential of the Mask, and then you ruined it. Good job.
Yes, I think that describes my feelings in a nutshell. Yes.
All right, so
Terrible.
We're not just here to talk about those Mask movies. We're here to talk about your Mask movie too. So give us a rundown of when you first had the idea of coming up with a Mask fan film to its completion. Like, how did you know you wanted to, like, reboot The Mask?
Where did it begin? I guess it's just like, I think I've got enough resources to really pull it together, and just kind of, we could have done our preliminary a little different, but we just kind of got the idea of just kind of flipping it on its head, and I think in lieu of Breaking Bad, that was a good kind of greased the slide for it to happen. Just I love that tone and just kind of that grittiness and rawness, and it didn't look like a cinematic universe because it was too real to be, and so we kind of pushed into that direction, and we started getting people on board and doing tests and things, and started to like what we saw, and then kind of a story came up, and it was kind of it kind of divulged into what it did, but we had kind of a different origin, kind of a defense story, and how we kind of ended up using some of those elements in the movie, but it was really a focus on just kind of somebody putting up with an abusive person, and just kind of this was their kind of resolve or defense in a way to fight against it, and then that ended up being one of the subplots, but then pretty much we ended up, every third act somebody else is going to get the mask, and so the curtain kept closing and reopening, and so we kind of knew we would just do one movie and just kind of keep it passing around as much as we could, but with hopefully the story not hitting the fan. That's kind of was our motivation to really get the pedal push to do it. So
yeah, totally. Yeah, that's interesting. Did you always know that you wanted to keep the tone of the comics while, sprinkling like callbacks to the movie in there too, or?
Yeah, I think so, and I think in some ways we strayed from the comics, and it was intentional. In some ways we really called back to the movie, which is also intentional, and Yeah, I've never been a fan of like just ultra violence, just gore for having gore. But if it was, some of my conditions are just that, if we could do it in such a way where we kind of show the pain behind the mayhem, was really the driving force, and was also, kind of prevalent of Breaking Bad, and just kind of the, all right, we see the madness and just the the ego running wild, but let's show also the consequences equally, and the pain and regret that comes from it too. And then that kind of, you've got to have a point to everything you do. So it's kind of that balance in the comics, where the comics are just so mean and gruesome. So it's like, some of this will work, but it was kind of important to put our own play on it too, so we're not just verbatim going from the comics and just having violence for absolutely no reason. So that was a big...
Yeah, totally. I do applaud the fact that you actually put violence where there needed to be violence.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, part of what makes the Mask tick is the fact that the Mask is batshit insane. You don't know what he's gonna do next, and I feel like that did kind of tie into the film a bit, which is part of what makes it work.
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah,
you were able to actually pay homage to the comics in a way where it was toned down, but it still paid off in the end, and it was really worth it. So
hit that happy medium where you've never become a slasher or just this gruesome with never any intent, but
you actually show a human side of the Mask, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah. That was our goal. How well that conveyed is, another thing. But, just kind of, just to be able to, have an adequate amount of motivation to justify the actions, and just have people get lost in that, I think, was, kind of a vehicle in its own. And, just kind of to have the... the most destructive things in there, just the metaphors, the evil disguised as good, and, and just the thinking mind, too. I think something that was really powerful in the original comics that I really loved was how the Mask would speak to its wearer through its psyche, or its...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's thinking person, whatever, the observer. There's a lot of things you can call that. But just and I think we all hear that, and I don't think we ever really attached it. I think we attached that to us, well, I'm going to go do this today, and no, you shouldn't do that, and why am I doing this, and I'm worthless, and we hear this stream of thought coming through all the time, and we mistake that for ourselves, which I don't think ever is. And so, it was important to really bring that out in the movie, and just to hear the rationality or irrationality, and just the irrationalism being rationalized, and to do these terrible acts and things like that. And maybe people connect with that, holy cow, what am I listening to in my head?
Yeah, everybody deals with that. So you've really got that spot on, and that's a really good touch, because you're once again, you're paying homage to the comics in a way that really works, and it's not just blatant fan service,
Right, yeah. And I think the first scene in the comic where, it's all right, let's go waste these guys, and Stanley and the motorcycle gang hit heads at let's go kill some people, and wait, is this me, or what is this?
And that's another thing I love about the comics is these people, we know that they're horrible, but at the same time, we feel bad for them at some point. And, we feel we want them to succeed. And sometimes they do, Raymond Tuttle from, Green October was one of the rare good guys in the comics. He actually meant well, and he succeeded in the end. But then you have your Stanley Ipkiss, who was just an all-around horrible person, and he got what he deserved, arguably. So,
all right. And I think I think that you brought up an interesting point, and just that, I think that redemptive factor could exist. I mean, the comics went there a little bit, but that was something else that we really wanted to drive home to, where it's never too late to turn back either. Where that salvation still exists, where, no matter how far you've gone, and I think my goal as a filmmaker would be to, in the future, if somebody's watching one of my movies on, death row, and they're like, maybe it's not too late for me. And I think, yeah, our deeds define us, and I don't know if we can be defined by our worst deed, so it's kind of, yeah, you can wipe that slate clean and start over again too, but.
Yeah, and like, once again, you do a very good job with that, because, the main characters in the movie, like, they all start off, like, they're all good people, and, like, at the end, like, yeah, they're very, very flawed, but at the end, like, you still want them to come out on top,
Yeah, and do they, it's kind of, yeah, it's tricky, and so, in our movie, we just kind of left that open, like, well, they're probably going to jail, or are they going to make a break for it, or are they not? And we just kind of cut away, because it's like, all right, they're just aware of where they are, and are just okay. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it works. It really works. Like, I showed the movie to a couple of my friends, like, a couple months, like, right after the movie came out. Like, they were at this point, they were, like, only familiar with the Jim Carrey movie, but they knew a little bit about the comics, and they were just, like, really blown away at how everything played out. Like, they were like, oh my God, this is legit.
Oh, cool. Hey, they're sitting there eating their beef jerky, having a good movie time. I'm glad you could bring that experience to them.
Yeah, like, it was really great. And that kind of goes into my next question. How'd you go about casting the characters for the movie? Like, how'd you go about finding, like, your Kat and your Aaron and your Elise and Calloway and all that?
Let's see. So, we originally started, I kind of had been brewing a little bit with, had worked with somebody else on a project. And so, yeah, we had everything, ink dried on the contract and everything, and just like, all right, you're going to be the lead of it. And we started doing, what was it? We did our life cast, and we did all the, extraneous stuff. And but then the script kind of dragged a little bit, and then the effects were being worked out, and so we ended up really getting into overtime on the pre-production. And so her schedule, it was almost like we had just such a window to use her, and so it was kind of hitting the outskirts of that. And I'm like, now it comes down to if everything gets together.
Right. Is this Jamie Summers, or?
Oh, no, it wasn't actually. She was I shouldn't say our plan B, plan A. But, yeah, we did have a different lead in mind. And then, I was like, boy, this all has to come together in a month. And so we ended up just parting ways peacefully. And like, all right, we're going to, yeah. And so we ended up, like, the next week, I actually ran into Jamie Summers at Walmart. I was like, holy cow, this is the look that we're going for. And so,
wow.
So I was like, hi, this is going to sound really weird, but would you be willing to sit down with me for lunch and talk? And then, of course, she does her due diligence and just asks a lot of questions and stuff. And then, so somehow this crazy producer guy walking up to somebody, just cold call. We got coffee and just ended up hashing ideas out and just looking at her availability, and like, this thing's going to happen really quick here, and we don't have our right lead right now. We just let her go, and and she somehow took on to it. So so we ended up with her, and the Aaron was casted. I had done a lot of university work with performing arts and different things, and so actually his professor had sent his acting professor had sent me just a video. It was like, if you need somebody who's good, that we have this guy. And so I was like, yeah, I'll and then I went to one of his he did a lot of on stage stuff and dance performance, I believe. And so I went to one of his stage performances and just was really impressed. And he accepted the role without even seeing the script and stuff. And and then Calloway was actually just a longtime friend from Long Beach, who's not an actor by trade, but he flew in to shoot it, and it was really cool. So he's like, he gave me a lot of grief because he loves The Mask, and he heard I was doing a Mask movie, and he never got a phone call. So I was like, I don't know where to put you. You've never acted before. We've done little goofy movies like Ceramic Cookies. That's on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I was actually watching that one this morning.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry to hear. No, I'm just kidding. But no, yeah, that was his first on-screen appearance, was Ceramic Cookies. But yeah, so I was like, I don't know where to put you. So instead of putting him in a really tiny role, we couldn't quite find where we wanted our Kellaway. So I was like, you have the look, but I don't know if. So we really had a crash course on acting, and I think we did okay, but yeah, I thought he did all right. He had the look and some of the vigor that the character needed, so that was
he did really good with the role, admittedly, so it worked out in the end.
Yeah.
Was Jamie always an actor by trade, or was this like her first role?
She had done some performing arts stuff. She was more in the background, so she did have kind of a performance background, but it was more in stage and helping and different things. So she had directed some large productions and things like that. But I don't think, not sure how deep acting was her forte. So, and the thing you run into too with stage actors is you've really got to break them a little bit to the point where, yeah, they're always acting to the person in the back row, if you've ever heard that metaphor. So yeah. It's just bringing them down to earth. So, we must come after the Israelites. We must come after the Israelites. Just bringing them down so many notches, and like, okay, we're over enunciating. All right, we're, be real, stumble up. So it's a challenge. So, we got there, I think, but, yeah, something I've ran into hundreds of times just with working with the actors over the years is, you can tell who's from stage and who isn't, and who can be real and not, and yeah.
Yeah, totally. And what about Elise? What about her?
Let's see. So I had done, I do photography on the side too, so she had been into modeling and different things, and so yeah, we had a photo shoot together, and then I just happened to, some roles started coming up, and they were going to be small things, and then, I ended up liking more and more where she was running with things, and she just had a lot of interest and just dedication to it. So we ended up, kind of concocting that character to her strength, and so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. So you didn't originally write these characters like as they were from day one. You just like fleshed them out like with the actors themselves.
To some degree, yeah. I think we had a direction, like the script existed before a lot of the key players were casted. Like, all right, who's gonna fit here? But I think to some degree you need to find people who will make it their own. So sometimes I've had cases where the written word doesn't get translated at all, depending on your casting sometimes. So it's good to meet at a handshake in a way, kind of a 50-50, where, you have people who can think on their own feet in the mind of the character, but at the same time not sell the word short or the page short for the script itself. So it's good to have someone who can understand the character and just kind of, all right, start doing weird things that aren't themselves, and just like weird quirks and tics and like, oh, you never did that before. You can tell they're getting into a new character and new territory. So, yeah. Yeah,
totally. I can totally see where you're coming from with that, and it really makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, I like that. Okay, next question. You had a lot of special effects in the movies. Like, how was that? Like, what was that like?
So we actually got kind of lucky. We had, so we started bits and pieces of the movie, and I think a lot of people were angry. You'd get lots of emails, but we ended up just delaying a little bit, just because we were like, oh, this would look so much better if we waited a little bit. We ended up getting kind of an angel investor on board who, paid for special effects that really weren't in the project originally, or even some that weren't even scripted. And so he really wanted to he liked the concept of the movie and really wanted to drive it home with some special effects. Like, oh, okay, great. So we ended up, delaying quite a bit to actually get those all implemented and done. And, I kind of had to step away and let that happen. And no, I really like what that turned out. I think some of the effects are, pretty awesome. And we had JM mates help out with some stuff. He's got a big YouTube channel and a lot of mask stuff on there. We also had some other special effects people on board, and it was really cool to be able to see some of that stuff. Like, oh, I didn't even think we would ever be able to do that. And originally it was written with no special effects in mind, and I don't think the comic really had a lot of special effects that I remember. There were no tornadoes or anything like that. Just the basic transformation, and it's kind of like, oh, flip, and oh, it's already on, and there's not a big transformation sequence or anything in the comics. So I was very much, bringing it down to earth and not being flashy. I really didn't want to, I wanted not flashy and kind of raw. And so, the special effects weren't on my radar, but I think that helped converge kind of to the original way a lot more than it would have otherwise, where I think people, I think a lot of people will be, bored by the movie the way it could have been if they weren't already. But, it's just kind of, I was okay with no special effects for just kind of the human commentary of a movie it was going to be. But we kind of were able to get away from that, and probably it was a good thing. So, yeah.
Well, it worked in the movie's favor. Like, it's actually, like your own spin on the mask. Like, it's not like directly ripping off the comics. Like, oh, it's Stanley Ipkiss and he's killing people. Doop-de-doo. Like, you're actually doing something new with the franchise to breathe new life in it, and it really works off. You pulled it off really well.
And we really had to be careful, I think. Maybe we didn't, but just to break the Jim Carrey stigma. So we need to get some of our interviews that we shot years ago out there. Aaron had talked about it, Cody Anderson, and he was like, I would just, break out into Jim Carrey and you just stop me. Somebody stop him. He's acting like Jim Carrey. So we really...
It's funny because Cody's performance in that movie when he's donning the mask, like, he kind of reminds me of a funnier version of Jamie Kennedy's mask.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like, he actually, like, he kind of has like this little smarmy voice that works. Like, he's very convincing as someone who you don't want to piss off. And then there's there's a lot of makeup in the movie. Like, how'd you guys go about that?
We had but yeah, I appreciate your comments on Cody. I think he just had kind of a cold, stoic performance. It was kind of different there. But yeah, the what is it? The makeup, that was, I felt so sorry for everybody. And I didn't have to go through the process, so I can say, oh, I know what it's like. No, I don't. But I remember leaving for 6 hours at a time sometimes because I had just so much going on. But I'd come back 6 hours later and it still wasn't done. So there were a lot of 8-hour days for everybody. And so, the mask, makeup, and it would keep pushing our extras back and our other actors standing by like, all right, the set's clear, the people are there. Where's Jamie Summers? And okay, I just checked back here. She's still in the makeup chair. So everybody go back outside, have a few more cigarettes. It's coming. And so it was a horrendous process. I have no idea why anybody stayed in the production, honestly. And we had contacts too. And I remember hearing Jim Carrey's take on the mask makeup and his Grinch makeup. And I think we kind of hit a hybrid of that. Not intentionally, but, in retrospect, we had the painful contacts. And I remember Jim Carrey saying he had a Navy SEAL come in that was appointed by the studios because everything was so painful. And I definitely could see that as a spectator of it, obviously not trying it myself. But, we would have tears and just, fits of rage and everything you can imagine. And yeah, I mean, but yeah, everybody stuck with it though and pulled themselves together and just, I have no idea how they could be funny sometimes after, sometimes 9 hours of torture leading up to the performance. So that really says a lot, like just to see them smile. All right, camera's rolling, action, and then, okay, we're doing cartwheels here at 4 a.m.
Oh, wow. So you guys were... Yeah, so what were the shoots like in the makeup?
Oh, yeah, it was stressful. I think, I don't know, it just, added years to people's lives, I think. But yeah, it was, so we'd start at, all right, well, all the mask scenes are in evening, so that gives you quite a, kind of not the most convenient thing to work with, where I'm all right, I'm a get up at 4 a.m. kind of person, and all right, now, but this is not the way that can work, unless, so we would end up maybe, all right, it depended on the season that we ended, so sometimes it would start in the spring, and then we'd get to summertime, and it made it more difficult in the summer because sun goes down so much later. So, yeah, we wouldn't really be able to start shooting till sometimes 8 or 9 when the sun was completely down. And so, you start your makeup at 4, and hopefully everything, hits no snags, and we can actually start shooting by 10 or 11. And so by the time we would get done shooting, sometimes it'd be 5 or 6 in the morning, and... Wow. Yeah, so...
That's insane.
So it was not the most fun thing for really anybody. So it was not in favor of the movie, but I just saw the pain of some people. Like, I encouraged them to quit. I was like, it's not worth it. No, we're going to finish this. Okay. So, no, I just, So hopefully people like the movie, I guess. I got the lighter end of the stick, I think. I didn't have to suffer through the makeup and all the stuff. So, we finished the movie, and I think a lot of people hate me, but we finished it. But, yeah.
I mean, I guess it's worth it in the long run, because you've got like 1 million plus views out of it, and
yeah,
a lot of love in the fan community too. So that's always a plus.
No, yeah, I mean, people are really cool, and just a lot of nice messages and things like that, and just support. So it's kind of surprising that
especially
people are out there. And I just made a movie of I would want to see, is pretty much the way it ended up, and it seemed like some other people, maybe 3 or 4 others, enjoyed it too. And that's all you can ask for.
And it especially picked up after Dylan Sides' Revenge of the Mask came out.
Yeah,
which I think was a godsend, because you guys are kind of like the two guys who are like really trying to bring the franchise back into a new light, and I love you guys for that so much.
Yeah, no, Dylan's a cool guy. He had messaged me probably back in, I don't know, August or July, and just said, hey, introduced himself, and here's something we're working on, and I can't remember if it was released already or not, but he had sent me a trailer. I was like, oh, wow, this looks really cool. And, it was really kind of neat to see, I was like, oh, somebody else is doing this too. That's great, and so I think he definitely sought out the PR a lot more, and used the coveted words official, and really got people, sucked in a way that we just never did. And so that was really cool of him to kind of share that a little bit, and be able to.
And he even had the blessing of Dark Horse at one point too, I think.
Yeah. And so that was really cool. And so it was I think he we kind of like, all right, well, let's, I forget what we ended up doing, but we kind of, I think we linked to each other a little bit, and I think that helped spread share our audience a little bit in the YouTube realm. And so the movie had come out end of 17, it was just kind of a Facebook exclusive for a year. And so we had put it up in November. I think he had really encouraged it. So we had put it up, probably a month or two, I think, before Revenge of the Mask came out, just on YouTube for the first time. And yeah, let's see what happens. Maybe we'll get our 30 views we've been after. And yeah, it turned into a lot more than that. So.
Oh man, yeah, maybe you'll get those. Maybe we'll get up to 30 million this time too.
Oh, who knows? Like I said, it's just kind of making a movie that, a few people who liked The Mask wanted to see, and hey, we accomplished that, and anything more is just kind of gravy, so it was never a movie that was supposed to... I'd never make movies for an audience. I don't usually give them what they like to see in my past outings and ventures in film, but so it's like, well, if people watch it, they watch it. If, I kind of make my art for... certain intentions and things. So they're not, universal romps of any kind, but yeah.
Yeah, I like that. And going back into the special effects for a minute, how did you guys go about designing the mask prop? Like, did you guys always want to, have like a new prop, or did you guys want to use like the new line mask at some point?
I really liked the New Line mask, but I think it was a big effort in just distancing ourselves from the Jim Carrey, kind of the, what do you call it, the kind of the good and bad performance style mask, that had been like an icon style for like 100 years, just kind of the universal, what I'm talking about, the happy, sad mask, just kind of the, kind of cut at the forehead. And so we really, I like that design a lot, but as like, we kind of hit a happy medium, I think, where we get the shape back from the comic book. We have a little bit of the Loki look, and then we kind of, made it our own thing. And a lot of people have said, oh, it looks like the animated series mask. I was like, I guess it kind of does. It's a little too detailed, but...
I mean, I was literally just about to say that, so thank you everyone else for saying that.
Yeah, I was like, I can see that. I think it's a little too scary looking for the animated mask, but originally I kind of wanted, it was a little scarier looking. One of these days we've got to get some old behind the scenes stuff out, but we had different stages of it and things, and it was more Slipknot style originally, and just so we kind of...
I would love to see you guys like post more of that stuff, because like I am like absolutely fascinated in like everything you guys have done behind the scenes wise, and like in general since day one, since like I first found out about this.
And what I'm gathering from talking to you here the past hour is I think you like movies. So
I mean I do, like I'm very fascinated like in the behind the scenes process of things. Like I love like learning about like all the practical effects and makeup effects and stuff like that, but like it's kind of like a little bit of a side hobby for me outside of music. So like I can like focus on more than one thing,
staying very entertainment centric in the visual mediums and auditory.
Like it's cool. It's always kind of been there for me,
No, that's very cool. Yeah, and I'm a little sarcastic too. I apologize. Of course, you like movies.
I've always been like that too. I've always been like one of those really out there kind of guys. So it's totally fine.
It's the only way to go. It's all I know. Yeah. But
it's how me and my friends keep saying. Thank God.
That's right. Yeah. But the mask design. Let's see. And then I pretty much asked our special effects supervisor, like, just get me a block of clay and I'll carve the thing over the weekend. And then can you mold it? And he's like, yeah, I guess we can. And so he got me this massive thing of clay, and that's probably why the mask is so big. I have no regret I don't think it shows as big as it really is, but it's huge. I kind of liked it that way. I think that's about more like it looked really huge in the comics too. So it's way, like I've had them side by side, like the 1994 mask and our mask, and it's, it's huge. And so I ended up carving kind of what I saw And yeah, he was able to do a two-sided mold really cool, and yeah. And so we ended up making just a few of them, and he's got one in his glass display case with all his projects, and I got the other one that's probably getting chipped away on a shelf somewhere here with a bunch of crap on it. But
oh yeah. And speaking of those masks, the one thing I've always wondered, there's a scene where I guess it's like an imagined spot where Kat is trying to give, Elise the mask, and there's like all these masks on a tree.
Oh yeah.
How many of those did you have to make for that scene, and how long did it take?
I think what we ended up doing was just we had a lot of rejects when we were making the masks, and a lot of people were like, "Why are you throwing these away? These are really cool." So I was like, "Oh, why don't we just start painting these?" And that wasn't the motivation for the scene, but when that scene came up, I was like, "Oh yeah, we could just put a bunch of them in a tree." And so that scene was kind of imagined, like 5/6 of the way through production. I was like, I really want to drive the kind of the original sin metaphor home a little bit, and so let's go back to Adam and Eve a little bit. And I was like, oh, by the way, this was not in the script that anybody agreed to, but what do you think of this? So I kind of gave them the artistic merit of it, and so like, okay, yeah. And so, yeah, we put up all the masks in the tree, and yeah, that was, I think, one of my favorite scenes, but I think it was the most confusing scene, too. And people were like, why is this in here? Instead of, just giving somebody the mask and like, this is really great, like, let's visually depict that and just, let that speak for itself if people get it or not. Again, the whole thing is, not making a movie for the audience. So then that's okay to give them something super abstract that no one will get, just to do it. So, yeah.
And yeah, I feel like that worked because, like, it was like I picked up on it the first time, like exactly what you were trying to convey in that scene. And I was like, oh man, this is gonna go somewhere. It's gonna. And I really love how it played out because Elise's character was like very complex in a way that like it really helped like show like a different side of the movie. Like you see like this person who's completely broken down at their worst moment, and then they just rise back up, and they just everything works out for them, but then it all goes to shit again without spoiling what happens to her. I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, I think you get a power that you can't let go of, so you go from weak and miserable to invincible, and, but you aren't invincible, is the lie. So they believe they are, and yeah, I mean, you get into too much of anything, it destroys you, so our example in the movie was, power or, invincibility, but I think, like I said, the human context of it, I mean, too much of anything, too much money, too much drugs, too much booze, whatever, will destroy you also. So, and you're listening to that voice where it says, this is all good, and then boom, we got addictions. And so the mask was definitely a metaphor for, kind of a commentary on addictions in a really unrealistic way, just having this superhuman thing like the mask. But that's kind of where we were going with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed like a lot of metaphors with the movie, and one of them that I've really picked up on, which I really love, and my friends love too as well, is like kind of like it's kind of like the whole girl power kind of thing, because like half of the movie is just focused on Kat and Elise wearing the mask, and this is the first time like it's actually been done within a mask movie, even though like the concept has existed since like the first comic. Was this intentional? Did you always kind of want to have like the girls rule kind of thing in the movie? Or?
I think it's just kind of the flow of the story and the way that it went. Yeah, I think we kind of, it just was kind of once the characters start writing themselves, you don't really get to decide. But we got a little worried like part of the way through the movie, because I think once we were still shooting when the new Ghostbusters came out with the female cast, and people really didn't, it was kind of panned. I like that movie, but Yeah,
Well,
and it's like,
yeah.
oh, people, like, and now it's totally flipped around. Like, I think, with the Me Too stuff and just just kind of recognizing, how cool something like that can be. Just having the leads that we ended up, doing, and yeah. So I think with no regrets.
Yeah, like I feel like now with the movie, we needed something like this, especially like in today's political climate, because like
Yeah.
you said, we had like the whole MRA Ghostbusters bullshit, like with we can't hit women, can't be cool, women can't do this shit.
Yeah.
Like no, like this has
Yeah.
been like planted in the ground forever. Like like we
Right.
can't.
No, I'm with you 100%. And so it was. Yeah, and like a lot of people are like, why, we kept our course, and I'm glad we did, but it wasn't a popular thing to do back when we did it, a couple of years ago. So the climate has changed so much in the last year, where it's like, why wouldn't we do it this way now? But back then
Yeah.
it was risky, because it was like, where's the men? Are you having any men in this movie? Like, what? So I guess I never saw a problem with that, but so I'm glad we did what we did with it, and just kind of show the dynamics of the characters. And, you really, it's tempting to, sexify or something like that with the characters. And you have the leads like that in Hollywood, and just different films and stuff like that. And so we really, I really wanted to be sure that, we, kind of had that balance. And so, like I said, everything needs to be for a reason. You just don't have stuff to not have, just like, oh, we're just going to put this in there. But, I made sure our actresses were on board with just, the progression of characters, with Elise's character moving from such a sexually repressed character to boom, this, power figure, and like, get out of my way, just kind of rebel, so it was, kind of hit that balance and have everything have a point to it without being just, aimless something. Which I think is, so prevalent in Hollywood movies. So we really wanted to get away from that and just, have everything just be a really,
Yeah, totally. And another thing I really love about the movie, and this is kind of a spoiler I am going to give away real quick, is that there's, I guess you can call it a twist. Stanley Ipkiss shows up in the movie, but not in the way that you expect. Was this always the plan for the character? Or?
Like I said, it was just kind of the flowing of writing where I really don't remember if it was so like, oh yeah, we have to have him in there. I don't remember that ever being the case, but I think it was just kind of an organic thing where I feel like there were two, sometimes you look at, the brass bones of, what was that? Sorry, I don't know what that was.
It's all right.
But you look at the brass structure of a movie and just kind of like, okay, we got antagonists, we got protagonists, we needed I was really pushing to not have a Dr. Newman type of character in the movie. Ben Stein was great, but this is a new take on everything, and we're really trying to draw from new blood here. And so we ended up kind of splitting his characters into two voices of reason, because we needed that. Okay, where does she go when she's hitting with the turmoil of this mask? She's not going to go to a psychologist like, here's more problems again. So we ended up splitting that character into Stanley. Guess what? He's a real life example. He's already had it, and he's we see the pain that he's already been through from having it. So in a way, that character kind of does like, I don't know, a prequel, sequel kind of a thing. So if you'd need, where's Stanley now? Well, here he is, and it really didn't end up that well for him. And the other flip side of that was kind of the, I don't even know if he had a name in the movie, but the janitor at the end of the movie is kind of a church upkeeper, whatever, who probably has more sense than anybody on the staff there. But so we were just like, we have this character kind of come out of the blue, and he's like, just these voices of reason that kind of come into play where, okay, this person's struggling. So where do they get some wisdom that's not their own? So we kind of split that into, those kind of characters.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like, okay, so there's a part in the flashback where you actually briefly see him as the Mask, and like, if you look like closely for a second, he's like breaking the guy's arm or something. Like, you can kind of see like a little bit.
Arms in half.
You can actually see like a little bit of a green head. Like, did you actually have your actor like get in like full mask makeup for that, or?
He wanted to, and I wanted to, but it's not really necessary as much as we really are wanting to show, and like to do a whole another life casting process, which can,
I can kind of see where you're coming from on that, because like, you know,
it's
like
just
it's
so
a very
much time
short
and
scene.
money. It's insanely expensive, and so it's like, it's not necessary for the scene really, and so rather than lose the point, and then I know we'll just go on a whole tangent shooting extra stuff. So we ended up just, it's actually a rubber mask that he's wearing. But as much as we show, it's really all we really wanted to show, and it's all we really needed to see. And I don't think you're like, oh, that looks fake, because we never really see that much of it, and it's so dark. So it was really the way we wanted to go.
Yeah, and you also use sort of like a little rubber kind of mask thing for like the what we do see of the transformations.
Yeah, kind of. It's I want to say it's dragon skin or something. Our special effects guy made something really cool. I didn't even know that. And he spent a lot of time really crafting the heck out of he was like I can't remember whose idea it was, but it was a really good one. And that, that was, I think, concocted when we really decided to go the practical way. Like, all right, no special effects. And so that was one of our exceptions, practical effects really get by. And so, we ended up making that, and you can pull at it and rip at it and stretch at it, and it won't break, which was great. So they could really have some pretty genuine struggles with it. Which I didn't even know you could do that. Like, oh, this is so stretchy and awesome, and this is perfect. And so that's why you really see them ripping at it and stuff. I think some of them were, in some early shots, I don't think they were using the movie. They were afraid to pull at it because they're like, I'm going to break this. This is expensive. And it's like, no, it's, so I think we got what we were looking to accomplish out of it.
Yeah, like I would totally feel the same way too, especially if I'm working with something like that. And like the way you guys utilize that effect is like you do it perfectly in a way where you show a little bit of it, but you don't show too much of it. Like during like the first transformation of Cat, like, like it's spinning around, so you can kind of see it, but you don't like make out like the whole features of it, so it's like not too obvious. It works. It really does.
Yeah. No, thanks. I'm glad. I'm glad it accomplished what we set out to do. But yeah.
Yeah, and another one of my favorite effects in the movie is when Elise takes her face off. Did you guys do life cast for that, or?
I think we did, yeah. So that was a whole nother spectrum of pain, I think, to undergo. Maybe it wasn't. I think we might have been able to use the life cast. I think once you have the life cast, you can really do extra things. So they just like, all right, let's make a kind of a skin thing, and so we were able to do that. And I mean, I never quite understood in the comics like why it was so bloody when they take it off. Like, why is there mask blood between the skin and the mask? Because it's like it's not the blood is underneath the mask. So we ended up going that route where it's a pretty clean thing. It's not like too gross. I mean, well, hey, she took off a face, but I really like the ability to just become whatever you need to become to, whatever, awful thing you're going to do next. You can dupe people and just become other things. And, at one point, I think she turned into a porta potty. I'm not making that up. So you can turn into whatever you want.
It barely makes sense in context too. So,
so why can't you be able to turn into another person, or yourself for that matter, to dupe a cop or something? So,
it's like you do have the like those little nods to like the cartoony kind of aspects, like the eyes popping out and stuff. But like you're also able to make the movie like really grounded in reality, which really benefits. So
Yeah, tried to, and yeah, I mean, we tried to, I mean, for instance, not even keep the camera very stable and not frame it perfect, because we were just really, if you look at an episode of Breaking Bad, they never do that. I mean, there's no great crane shots, there's not a lot of beauty in the shots, and that sounds like a weird thing to have be your goal, but like to get that kind of gritty style that doesn't look like a Marvel movie was really what we were going for, and just have it, be almost documentary style to a degree. And I've done a lot of found footage movies, unfortunately, where that was much more prevalent, but I part of me likes that style quite a bit, so that was kind of like, ooh, looks like a whole movie. I was like, well, it's kind of what we were aiming for too, in a way, so yeah.
totally, yeah. I mean, that really makes a lot of sense, like, in terms of what you were trying to achieve, and it really paid off.
Yeah. So it's actually, yeah, like cutting back on your resources that you have to sometimes achieve some of those looks. Like, yeah, we got this crane, and yeah, we got the tripod, but, we could stabilize things and make it look so much prettier, or, but, yeah, like break the lighting convention and the shooting convention, and that's, I don't know if that was popular with everybody that, was on board, but I think they got the vision, and they're like, yep, that is the way to do it if that's what you're going for. So that's what we ended up doing.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and like I said, it works. So, all right, so I have one more question, and then we'll wrap up. So you premiered the movie on the big screen in 2017, once it was, like, you actually premiered it in a theater.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Cool. It was pretty much, just for kind of cast and crew kind of a setup. But it was kind of funny because we started seeing people there who weren't on the list. Like, I think people bought a ticket to go see whatever was out. Like, I bought a ticket for the new Ghostbusters, but what's this? Like, they would see posters up in the lobby, and like, oh, it's this way. So we had people like joining it was pretty cool, and they had no idea what they were expecting, because there's no trailer to look at or anything to get a gauge of the feel of this one and how different it is from the Jim Carrey movie or anything. So I don't know what they thought of it, but I didn't get to talk to any of those people, but it was pretty cool to get it on the big screen and have our crew showing. I think that was back in like probably September of 2017, and I think we had the movie come out around Halloween in 2017. So it's been on a while, and so just recently made its YouTube debut. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so with all that in mind, Jason, so what's next on the horizon for you?
Well, if people enjoyed the folks we had in The Mask, we pretty much have all of them back for 2 more movies. Not of The Mask, but they kind of take... I honestly feel like these movies are in the same universe as The Mask, because there's just a lot of quirkiness and different things. So yeah, if you want to see the same folks again, we have 2 movies coming out. One is Becoming Vassar, and the other is Killing Vassar. That's a 2-part feature-length films. And going back, we're talking about Stanley Ipkiss. Matt Lawstone, who plays Stanley Ipkiss, is in these movies as well, so he's the lead. So we get... I would say these movies are kind of Dumb and Dumber meets Breaking Bad, and they're much funnier than Mask was. So yeah, you get another chance to see a lot of familiar characters. Cody Anderson's back. Jamie Summers is in the second film as well. So yeah, we even get to see the Tina character, who is just in the Stanley flashbacks, play a more prominent character as well in the Vassar movies. So those are should be out on Amazon here, I believe, next month or April. So yeah.
Oh, so they're already done.
Yeah, they're done and in a box.
All right.
So those will be, we're just finishing up some music licensing stuff, and then those will, I think we'll have some social media stuff get out there as well with the potato teams getting on that.
Wonderful.
But, so some Amazon exclusive films there, and so. And I think The Mask is actually referenced in one of the films as well. So it's
Nice.
a very self-aware movie. I'll just say that. So.
I mean, I like self-aware, so it's definitely gonna be on my list. I'm definitely excited to check those out.
Cool. Yeah.
Sweet. So where can we see The Mask?
The Mask. If you tune in to HBO at 7 p.m. Oh, actually,
right.
Are you talking about my version or?
Your version, obviously.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you might want to shut off HBO if you already got it on, but it's on YouTube. I think just straight up youtube.com/themaskTV. I think is what it is. youtube.com/themaskTV, all one word, and you can also find it probably by just looking up The Mask full movie in YouTube. Should come
sweet.
up within the first 12 pages, hopefully. And we might also be doing some more shorts. Probably nothing new, but we've been kind of, I've just heard people like, the movie is so long and my attention span is 9 seconds. So we're kind of cutting up the movie into some more digestible point arcs and different things. So we have The Mask, The Origin, I think is one of them that's already out there. So you can kind of, just get the nuance of the history of the mask in one film. And we'll probably also be doing the same with the other characters as well. So like
Nice.
Stanley
And
will
you're going to
get
be,
his own movie. And
are you guys going to be putting out like more behind the scenes stuff too, or?
I think we need to. I think we need to dust off the old shoe boxes, because I know everybody's had interviews and stuff, and I'm not sure how much of that has actually gotten out there. I only go on a computer on Tuesdays, so you'd think I'd know this technology stuff. I'm awful at social media and stuff. I unfriend people by accident. I'm really bad. I have huge fingers, I guess, and we'll let the smart people get at the social media stuff and get some good stuff up there.
All right,
hopefully we'll
sweet.
get some good behind the scenes stuff up there. So.
Awesome. And what about your non-mask films? Where can we see those?
Those should be on Amazon here, pending a few things, but I think we can, look up Vassar, Vasser, Becoming Vassar, and Killing Vassar right now are the working titles for both of them, and so 4+ hours of more movies there. So it was such a long movie, we cut it into 2 films, so you'll watch 10 minutes of the first one and never come back for the second one, but at least they'll both be out there. So, no, I'm just kidding, hopefully not, but no, a lot of people put a lot of time into it and stuff, so those will be out this year. And what else is there? Yeah, we might have some other fun new stuff coming to the Mask TV channel as well here.
All right.
So, some cool stuff to maybe be on the lookout for. So subscribe and you'll probably get notified for that. And we're waiting on hear back on a few things. But we got some really cool things in the works here that I'll probably have a back seat in. But maybe get to do some writing or something on something. So, should be cool.
All right, fantastic. Well, thanks for joining us, Jason, and y'all have a good one.
All right, you've been here a long time. Can I make you a sandwich or anything quick?